looks good, this looks good. Nobody here to give comments.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Amy said to me 2 weeks ago, you know, the paper might start showing up. Is it too late? We did it last night, so. I saw her at the Rotary that next morning.
1900. I'm going to call this meeting to order, please. If you all would please stand for the pledge, as you are able and willing. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming. Public comment, we have not had anyone sign up to deliver public comment tonight, so we'll move right into the report of the secretary. May I have a motion, please, to approve the minutes of our last meeting?
I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023. I second, Heather.
Heather, thank you. Anybody find anything?
Looked good.
I did not. You all want a minute to have a glance, or?
I already looked at them.
Good, excellent, all in favor? That is 5-0, thank you. And that brings us to the report of the chair. I have a smallish number of items on my portion of the agenda. Our next town officials meeting is scheduled for next Wednesday, a week from today, September 13th, 8:30 at the central office. If you are interested in attending and can, reach out to me. See, this is where I'm taking it off myself. It's more likely to happen. Okay, thank you. Secondly, MSMA Fall Conference, October 26th and 27th. It's a Thursday and a Friday, I believe. Is this on here again, John, because registration is now open? I think it may be.
I saw the email, I believe, 2
Yeah.
days ago that said it
Okay.
was now open, so.
Excellent. So if you want to attend, let Terry, I guess, right?
Yes, please.
Let Terry know, and she'll get us registered.
And it's terry.leach@rsu35.org.
Terry.Leach, thank you. Okay, topics for future board meetings. This is something that has been asked for a couple of meetings now. Have you had a chance to think, and are there things you might want to see covered during the course of our?
Can I share the feedback that I've gotten so far?
Sure, go ahead, please, that's awesome.
So definitely the elementary school health position upgrades, the programmatic changes with the elementary school and the Marshall Great Works School, do some work with that. We also wanted to do, we mentioned last year, an ELO update regarding the work that we're doing with the ELO programs.
Okay, that was on my list, thank you.
Obviously, the Career Center, the work that we're going to do with the Career Center was a big one. And I would imagine that you would probably want to see something about the attendance initiatives, just where we are with the attendance.
Count me in.
That would be, yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah, literally and figuratively,
Yep,
right?
great, great.
So that's what I've heard so far.
Yep. Those two of my three.
Okay.
Me as well.
I thought at some point it might be interesting to get another update on just how we're doing generally with outdoor education.
Yep.
I know we're in the process of putting in that Project Adventure course.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I met with them actually 2 weeks ago. So we went through and marked all the trees, and so
Oh,
we're
cool.
next step. So kind of neat, yeah.
We get a demo, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to my PE days. I can
Yes,
still do
I
those
know,
things,
right?
right? Anything else, folks, that had kind of?
Okay.
Brett was, I think, going to say NEASC. I'm going to guess.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely, yeah,
Yes,
for sure,
yes,
for
yes.
sure. Excellent.
Is there more Maine Youth Health Survey? Did they take it again? The kids didn't take
The Midas?
a new one, yeah.
Yes, we should be seeing that in the next month or so, so I'm
Okay.
sure the one
Okay.
to have,
Yeah, we should
can
have
invite
update
Sally
on
back
that.
again.
Okay.
I find it helpful that when Sally comes and helps kind of disaggregate the data, is that?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like it to
For
see
sure.
the comparison data from the other schools.
Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey.
Mhm. I suspect other topics will suggest themselves as we go along.
Yeah, how many spots do we have?
I mean, it's really, you can tell me, but I mean, I think typically, I had said recommending like from 6 to 10 to 12 in that ballpark, and then that leaves us some flexibility. Because once we really get into, March, April, May, a lot of that kind of gets taken up with the budget stuff. Not saying you can't do it, I'm just saying that just there's kind of becomes hyper-focused on the budget, but certainly,
Like things come up.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good start. That's a lot.
The other thing that I think would be really important, if you don't mind me saying,
Please, go ahead.
things you might not have thought of that may be interesting. The middle school with work with bar, I think it might be really interesting for you to have a bar presentation, to understand what bar is, how that impacts really all students at the middle school, and how comprehensively that's impacting that entire building. So that I think that might be something that may have some value for you all to hear about as well. And that really kind of meets the MTSS goals by December 1st, having those systems in place with fidelity.
Right.
So.
Right.
I know
Excellent.
there's a lot of work going on around the transitions between the schools, but that's like a goal for this year, so maybe that's like a next year update?
Yeah, I'm
I
going
know,
to talk
there's
about that
other
in here,
stuff
yeah.
too, I know.
I got to throw a little curveball on my
Yeah, we don't
transitions
have
plan,
a
so,
different-
yeah,
I
I'll,
saw that.
yeah,
Okay.
so, I'm bummed.
Okay.
It's gonna be okay.
If there's nothing else, then we'll move on to the report of the superintendent.
Thank you very much. To do first was just, I think really most important is to kind of hear from the principals how the start of school's gone in their individual buildings. So I've asked each principal just to share a minute or two just of kind of some of the anecdotal things that have taken place. I will say, from top to bottom, the feedback I've received is this one is one of the smoothest openings that we've had in a long time. It feels a little bit different, which is great after cutting out of the last 3 years. And so I think it started with having the opening day, the way we managed that, and really understanding as a district, the most important thing for staff is to give them the time to get ready to do the job that they need to do and not occupy them with stuff that isn't necessarily a priority in their world. Because like it or not, those kids are going to show up at 7:30 the next morning, they need to be ready. And so just being really mindful of that. So I'd like to just turn it over to the principals to kind of share anecdotally how the first couple days of school have gone.
You want us to have a mic?
Sure, that'd be awesome.
Yes.
Just real quickly, it has been a fabulous start, other than the heat. It's been really hot in here, kids are whiny, staff are whiny about the heat, but overall, it's been really good. I mentioned NEASC because, as you know, and we talked about this last year, we went through the self-study over the course of the year, and we wrote our own reflective narratives by the 5 standards. And we didn't have time when school got out to do the whole faculty vote. So we did that those first 2 days. And where the committees rated us is where everything kind of went through with the faculty vote. I credit it to going seamlessly because of the steering committee and the work they did in setting the stage for all that work. And so when we had the staff vote, they said, we think we're going to need an hour and a half, but I hope we don't need more. And in 58 minutes, we were done because everyone's like, yeah, okay, yeah, we agree, we agree. We had to do that, and now what we do moving forward is we set our goals of where we want to improve in those 5 standards moving forward. In November, on the 13th and 14th, we have 5 members of the committee coming to our school district, staying at the Neely House those 2 days, and they're going to validate our work, check our goals, and set us on a plan, a 2-year plan, where they'll return for a longer visit with more folks to make sure we're on that. So everything's kind of falling in place, everything's sinking, and it's all good right now. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm Christine Goulet, I'm the middle school principal. A lot of things have been going well so far. We had Meet the Principal. Our student orientation went excellent. We have gotten some outside, we brought the picnic tables back out so staff can access them to bring their students out to learn. We had some Foursquare painted on the outside so the kids can have some games and stuff like that. Bar is going, and we look forward to presenting to you. It's going great. The staff are very open to the new process, and this is just going to reach all of our children, not just a few. Overall, it's just been a really great start. I'm learning that my dress code is interesting for some of the students, so I'm keeping that in mind to grow thicker skin. But other than that, they've all come in. They've all come in. they're enjoying themselves, and we're creating relationships at the middle school.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Awesome.
This is a Meme dress, by the way.
Oh my gosh.
The other day I was going to a Barbie movie.
Awesome.
Oh, great. So yes, we've had a great start. Started with like 2 really great PD days. We did a lot as a district and at Central. We did some rotations with our instructional team, so we were focused on our goals, which is in alignment with the district goals, doing attendance protocols, talked about Howdy and how we're working Howdy into our culture, Alice, responsive classroom, and then our academic goals. So we had a great session with Jermaine. It's always such a treat to work with him, and we could talk to him literally all day long. So it was wonderful about microaggressions and just had us all thinking and talking, and I'm sure we can't wait for him to come back. We had a lot of new students, which is exciting. We even had 6 new students register the day before, so that was a new record. So kept watching pre-K numbers are coming and going, but they're still steady. One goes, one comes, so we're still good. The children are just amazing so far with the 1st through 3rd graders. They look so great. They rested and they're just so excited to be at school. We've had all our screenings. Our pre-K screening we did differently this year. We did the similar to our kindergarten, where they had hour block appointments, and the pre-K staff is in love with the new process because they get a whole hour with the new 3 and 4-year-olds and get to really introduce them to the school. So we are there. Tomorrow's the big day where they all come in. So we cannot wait. Our school looks amazing. Our custodians and our administrative assistants have been working so hard this summer. We have, which is a big deal for Central, every bathroom has a new floor, so it just changes, it really changes everything. Like, it's so exciting to have, just smells nicer and looks nicer, so we're really excited about the floors in the pre-K bathrooms, every bathroom. And also even we have a staff bathroom that was renovated. It was like, stalls, and now it's just a one nice bathroom, just one bathroom, and really, Todd did an amazing job, and he even left us he made us a little shelf with little treats and a little note, so it was just made us feel really very special. And the light, we love our lights. There's nothing better than being able to dim lights and have for quiet time, and it helps so much even with the heat, being able to dim the lights instead of leaving them on or turning them off. So, love our lights. We have great new staff members. We're fully staffed, which is exciting, which for right now at least it's good. So we have even our lunch and recess monitor, which we never are starting with the lunch and recess. So that's really exciting. They're wonderful. Excited to have health at the elementary school. So that'll be starting on Friday. And again, we're really just excited about our attendance protocols. I think the staff's really excited. Howdy is just really fun. So we have just in every classroom and really talking to the kids about attendance and the new messaging of the nurses. Like, it just feels really good. So we're off to a good start.
Thank you. The Howdy letter went out today. The first parent introduction letter went out today, so.
So Nina took a bunch of mine, but I'm going to repeat it. So first of all, the custodians, just unbelievable work. And I mean, you figure vacations, sicknesses, things like that, just the building. We have one new gentleman that started just at the end of the last year. And he goes, and he was one of the guys that what do you really do in the summer? And he just has a new appreciation of the work that they do. And I don't know if you know Ed Hubbard, but he's been the head custodian at Great Work School for a number of years. He's been there probably as long as I have. And with this outdoor grant, I was always saying, Ed, what can we do this? Ed, can we do that? We got this huge outdoor deck built. Now Todd did a ton of that as well. We started the hammock garden, and so the reading garden, and not this Saturday, but next Saturday, Ed said we got to put in 6 more pods of them, so we'll have 24 hammocks. And Ed goes, I'll come in on a Saturday. And it's just, it's that type of thing. So, the school looks wonderful, but all those extra things. And he would just smile, say, we'll get it done, Jerry, we'll get it done. So, and then we have Project Adventure. I know they're working with the high school, but they're also working, that's part of our project as well. And so we have 3 or 4 outdoor and some gym apparatuses coming in, and so they're coming in, I think, on the 19th and 20th. That's all part of that outdoor ed. So a lot of that stuff, those things are moving forward. Joe would be upset if I didn't say the only thing we worry about those first 2 or 3 days is, we get them there, and we feed them, and we get them home. I had a parent that was sending me an email about something, and I sent her an email back on Monday. And I said, look, we just had to get the kids home, had to feed them, and so we did that. I left a little gathering last night for retired teachers, and all of a sudden I checked my phone, and they said, Jerry, can you come back to school? We have goats at school. And so we have 9 goats, and they're eating all the poison ivy. And so we've hired that out, again, part of the outdoor grant. The goats got out. Okay, so I did not know that was part of my job description, okay, chasing goats. Now I have to say, by the time I got there, the goats, a neighbor had put them back in the pen. But tomorrow, if you walk by the Great Work School, the Woodland and Wonders, we've got permission to take the goats for a walk. And so we're putting them on dog leashes, and Woodland and Wonder is taking the goats for a walk.
What time is that?
I don't know, it's gonna be all morning.
Driving
All
by?
morning, so if you need your lawn mowed or something like that, And all our activities start next week, so we've got, a ton of clubs already started. So you just can't say enough, and it's for all our schools, our staff. Our staff is wonderful, so. Thank you.
So those your goats to keep or your rentals?
No. Well, we had a conversation.
Don't give him any ideas, please.
I have a few bucks left in that.
You're building that lead to.
Yeah.
There you go.
Goat herd. I like it.
Can you imagine following that?
Yeah. I told you, you know what you.
1 to 2, John. First, I just want to take the opportunity to recognize some folks that really got us ready for the new school year. Our administrative assistants were terrific. Haley and Amy worked like crazy all summer long to make sure our new staff were on board. They had what they needed to be successful. They connected with parents, helped parents solve some issues around transportation, or who the new teacher was going to be, or whether they were half day or AM or PM. So they were just great. Our custodial team, like the others said, was just fantastic. They worked their tails off, moving classrooms, closing classrooms down that we were using for other purposes. They just worked really hard. Our extended school year team, ESY, and our summer boost. Those folks did a terrific job moving kids along over the course of the summer. And our staff, I would say to you and say to the public, sometimes people think that teachers get done in June. They don't. They were right back at it a couple of weeks later, getting their rooms ready, talking about curriculum and assessment, best practices. So we're really proud of that. Reference to professional development was made, much that Central did and Jerry's team did. We did as well. We did place some emphasis on math and the AVMR screener, and did some training around that. Sneak Peek was terrific. It was so nice to see families come in and lots of questions. We caught up with a lot of stories. We have 3 student teachers from the University of New Hampshire that have joined us, and what a pleasure to have them, and we're trying to tap them as substitutes in their off hours. So we're working on that, but they're doing great. They've got 3 mentor teachers that are veterans, terrific teachers. They're going to learn a great deal. So the first week of school has gone beautifully. The kids are happy to be back. The staff have embraced them. Our staggered start is just great. Teachers our pre-K teachers to getting to know small groups of kids, really personalizing that first day experience. And the kindergarten teachers, they're assessing kids one-on-one, getting to know them, getting to know their moms and dads. So it's a great start. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Next, Ryan was going to share the enrollment update from the first day. Remember, this is just a preliminary enrollment. Really, we certify it in mid-October. And I also asked him to share a little bit on how enrollment impacts the budget. So I want to go back to the narrative where we can be as transparent as possible. Like, this is the beginning conversations around the budget for the next year, and it really talks about this student-based budgeting model, and it starts with the number of students we have in the district. So Ryan?
So our first page, there should be a colored graphs in your packet. The first page is the enrollment data broken down by the schools for the last 5 years. Kind of showing you some trends at each of the schools. As you can see, we're up significantly at the elementary schools. I do want to temper that a little bit. The enrollments for pre-K that are from out of district are up pretty high this year, higher than they've ever been. So even though those enrollments look like they're up, we're probably not going to keep most of those students for next year.
So I just want to be clear about the out-of-district placement with pre-K. We do not hire additional staff for that. What we do is we have staffing, and as you know, the pre-K numbers are really clear, that you can have 8 students per staff member, or 16 if you have a teacher in an ed tech. So for instance, if we have a morning session and an afternoon session for 2 teachers, that would mean we have 64 spaces available. And so what we do is we give, I think it was till like the June 10th approximately, that we said people in district can be able to register. And then at that point, if we had open spaces, we would allow people from outside the district.
But we cap it.
But we capped it and left a little bit of room for ourselves. We left really little room at Central School. So we are at capacity right now at Central School. But at that point, there's no impact budget-wise, but it does help our subsidy in the future. And so just trying to find that balancing act. So we're not hiring new staff to be able to support out-of-district students. That is not what's happening. So I just want to be clear about that.
So essentially, with a pre-K enrollment, when we talk about subsidy, we do get the subsidy whether they're an in-district student or an out-of-district student. So we still get the subsidy, and we don't have to do, it's not really like a superintendent's agreement. If the sending school or sending town doesn't have a pre-K program, we can just take them. So also on the front page is the Rollinsford enrollment. Unfortunately, that is down a little bit this year. We're down 14 students at the high school, up 2 students at the middle school, but kind of a net, we've lost 12 students. So on the next page is the enrollment comparison for the first day this year compared to the first day last year, but this is broken down by grade level. So I did want to point out that pre-K, we have 30 students this year who are from out of district. Last year, that number was 14. So that's kind of like that increase we saw at the elementary schools. That's 16 students difference. So that's kind of what explains that. Most of the other enrollments, we kind of see some ups and downs. But overall, if you go down through the whole list, we are up 6 students to start this year compared to where we were at the start last year. So on the next page, I showed last year's first day of school versus what we certified in October. So just kind of going to show, typically we do lose some students between first day of school and when we get to October 1 and we're certifying. And that certification usually doesn't take place till November once we kind of get everything settled and counted. The reason for that is people are really good at telling you they're coming, but they're not as good at letting us know they're leaving. So, the first few days of school, we might think a student's here and we're marking them absent, but they're really going someplace else. So over the next few weeks, that'll kind of get taken care of, and then we'll be able to certify our enrollment. So on the last page, this is just kind of showing you the trend for enrollment from 2014 to 2023, so kind of giving you a 10-year picture, kind of showing you it looks like a wave. And just on there, we projected 2,119 students. If let's just say that 22 number that we did last year holds true, if we lose 22 students between now and our October 1 enrollment, that would put us at 2129, which is up 10 students from what we projected, but kind of within kind of where we'd want to be. So, any questions on enrollment? So the last page of the packet is the first page of the prior year's EPS document from the state of Maine. And that's how our subsidy is calculated. So The very top box, which is section A, is our attending counts. So those are what we're certifying in October, is our attending enrollment. Now, there's a difference between what people that are attending and people that we get subsidy for. So lion's share of those people are the Rollinsford students.
Yeah.
We don't get subsidy for those students, we get tuition, so it's separate and they get pulled out of the calculation. But this attending box at the top is our attending. On the following page, we'll go through that, I'm sure, at another meeting.
Yeah.
We get to the subsidizable students. But when they do our breakdowns for how many teachers we need per student and all those types of things, they use our attending enrollment.
Mhm.
So as you can see, they give you a 2-year average, so any huge dips in enrollment, they try to kind of layer it in over 2 years instead of just giving you one big drop at once. So they do a 2-year average. So just some things I wanted to point out. In the next section, they do ratios based on enrollment, how many elementary teachers you need. So while we have 2 different elementary schools and there's students at both, they basically lump everything together when they do these calculations. So the number of teachers we need, or that they say we need, is different versus what we actually need in district when we do the budget. The other thing I wanted to point out is the salary information they use. They don't use what we pay the teachers or what we give the teachers for benefits. They take the teachers' years of experience and their education level, and they have a value that they assign to that teacher. So it's different than what we're paying them. So when they calculate salary information, it's based on their metrics, not what we're actually paying. So for example, if you looked at like a teacher salary, I just looked at a few and kind of matched up what the subsidy formula says we would pay that teacher and what we're actually paying that teacher. Ours are between 15 and 20% higher than what they're calculating the subsidy on. So kind of, this is how the state works with all districts. It's not like they're penalizing us or anything like that. But if you went through the formula and they said we needed 129 teachers, we actually have 146 teachers. So when they do the calculation, they basically take the total salaries that they calculate divided by the total number of teachers that they say we should have, and they only basically give us that for subsidy. So just wanted to make sure everyone understands that's how that process works. The next section, which is section C, is the computation of benefits. And the way that works is they give us a percentage. So whatever they calculate for the salaries, they multiply that by a percentage. So for teachers, they give us 26% of the salary is what they give us to cover benefits. Depending on where a teacher is on the scale and what type of benefit plans they take, those percentages can vary anywhere from 53% of a teacher's salary down to 35%, depending on where we are. So our percentage that we pay for benefits and retirement and those types of things are higher than what the state's giving us. Again, I'm just pointing out the numbers that we use to calculate the budget are different than these, which is why at the end, when the state calculates a number, there's always in addition to, we need to raise this much more money because there's other things in the budget that, the classic example, if you go back up to the top, is nurses. So we have a nurse in each building, but by the state subsidy formula, we should only have 2.65 nurses. But we wouldn't do that because how would you split that? And if there was an emergency in the building, you'd obviously want a nurse there. So it's just the formula, the way the math works just isn't necessarily great.
And just remember also that every school district in the state of Maine pays a different rate for health insurance. And so I think it was 10 years ago or so, thereabouts, where the MEA Benefits Trust decided that they were gonna break out individual schools. And so Noble may have a 1% increase one year, and we might have a 10% increase. So the X that we're dealing with can escalate. And so it's really that, it's all over the map right now. So there is really, so this is kind of a shot in the dark from the state to put this number down, because anybody could be all over the place, so.
And then just quickly on section D, I just wanted to point out a couple things like the co-curricular and extracurricular support. They're giving us $45 at the K through 8 level per student and $137 per student at the 9 through 12. That comes out to approximately $158,000 that they give us to do sports and extracurricular activities. Our budget for that is closer to $700,000, so we are spending over and above, but I don't think anybody would dream of cutting those programs to match what the state's saying. Facilities and maintenance, again, if you do the math out, you get the state subsidy formula says we should get $2.7 million. We spend $4.1 million in our facilities. So like, again, just pointing out that there's some inequities in what we're doing versus what's in the formula. And then the very last part is a regional adjustment. So there is an adjustment as the state recognizes. We live in the southern part of the state. We do get a little bit more, so they basically give us a 6% multiplier on all the calculations above to account for the fact that our salaries and things are higher than they would be if we lived in central or northern Maine. Doing all of that math through that whole process, basically the state says for every student, they're gonna give us $8,200 for a K-8 student and $8,700 for a 9 through 12 student. So this is kind of like the state starting point for how they calculate subsidy. Then they start going through the subsidizable students and multiplying these things out to get a number for the budget.
So this is the reason why, like, when they changed the minimum teacher salary to $40,000 now?
40, yep.
You know, they were, that moving that number creates a different end on the other side. So like and there's a bunch of variables that can move if you shuffle things around, not even to talk about the mill rate. And so there's just a lot of work that has to be done to be able to make this work, so. Then typically end of January, we start to get more concrete numbers as to what our state subsidy will look like.
But they can make changes throughout. It's not just one place where they usually change things. They can change things throughout the formula. So they could change the student to staff ratios for teachers, nurses, however they want to do that. And those change frequently. Like, it's not like they just change them, like they change them all the time, so.
Any questions? Just wanted to kind of get us thinking budget again, how student numbers drive the budget, so. Thanks, Ryan.
Yep.
Thank you, Ryan.
I just wanted to put on your radar that with your permission, I'd like to reach out to the superintendent of Rollinsford and start to talk about creating 2 meetings. We usually have those, I would think maybe either the end of October, beginning of November, and then again, maybe end of February, beginning of March. Would that be okay with everybody if I reach out with those general guidelines?
We typically do that as a workshop prior to our regular.
That's
meeting.
correct,
Yeah.
yep. So I will put those dates down and I will start making those connections.
Great, thank you.
Next, as you know, Dr. McGlinchey resigned as assistant principal at Marshwood High School at the beginning of August. We posted that position. Obviously, from a hiring perspective, the closer you get to school, the weaker your position is. And so we had 13 applicants. We offered 7 interviews, and 6 of those people did interview. Really, the prerequisite as we kind of went into this process was that we needed someone with high school experience and we needed someone with administrative experience, particularly as we get closer to the start of school. There's less time to be able to provide training. So if you're hiring, let's say in March, you have, let's say they start, July 1st, you have 2 months to kind of get people up to speed and be able to work out roles. But as you get closer to the school year, you need someone who can come in and be able to hit the ground running. We did not find a candidate that was a good match for us. Brett and I spent some time talking, and the recommendation that I'm going to make this evening is that we stop the search for right now, and we reopen that search in January. And so what we would do is we would post it in January and then try to hire someone to get them in place by July 1st. That's the goal. So now we're in the situation of how do we get through this school year. Obviously, there's a lot going on at the high school. We have the NEASC visit. We have a lot of work that we're trying to do to be in the classrooms. And so having that assistant principal position is critical. And so the recommendation that I'm going to make is that we hire Tony Bourbon, who is willing to do this on an interim basis. It's not a 1-year contract. It's not a 2-year contract. It's an interim basis. He would go back to his position that he's currently in July 1st when the contract year ends. And then he would be able to give us a little bit of a bridge as we kind of have the search process right now. Obviously not perfect in the fact that it is going to impact that the water situation in the district now is becoming a really, not just for us, but across the state is a real issue. And so that I'm going to work out some weekends that Tony would come in and do that work in addition to his work as the assistant principal here at the high school. In particular, the water and overboard discharge at the middle school is a really difficult math formula that we have to stay on top of on all bases. So I need to keep his hands on that. That's a priority for us right now. He would do that and then manage here at the high school, because he would be here in the high school, and that's something that we sat down and discussed in great detail. And then Todd would have to step up and handle the elementary schools and the middle school, more of the hands-on, changing the filters, those kind of nuts and bolts types of things that Tony was going to do. One of the questions that may come up is what about the recycling? Because that was one of the things that Tony was kind of a part of. He assured me that with his role as assistant principal, he would make sure that that happens here at the high school to really push that going forward. So we want to make sure we get the ground going with that. So not ideal, but we are very fortunate that Tony is willing to do it. He is a known quantity. He's been a loyal person to the district, and so I think he gives us a great opportunity to have a qualified person who knows the students to be able to kind of step in right away. So that there's a motion on the agenda tonight for that. So I want to be clear, though, this is an interim situation, that we will post it in January. This is, we just need to get through the next school year, kind of get our hands kind of freed up. Brett's got a lot on the plate, as I said, so I just want to make sure that he has the support that he needs to be able to do to kind of move Marshall High School in the direction that we're working so hard to do.
Smart decision.
Any questions from anybody? Okay. Thank you very much. Last week, I got a sad email that Tani Petrogaro has resigned as nurse at Marshwood High School. She has another opportunity that has kind of come about for her. So today, or tomorrow is her last day? Or is it today? Tomorrow is her last day within the district. So we've posted that position. And so I think we're interviewing on Friday. And so hopefully can find someone in short order to be able to fill in that role at the high school, obviously. Really important right now is that as you may be aware, that attendance is a huge issue for us, and one of the things that we talked about is really having a clear protocols that every school follows when it comes to attendance, and including the school nurse is very important in that. And so as we kind of reviewed our protocols and procedures, you see at the elementary school, like they are a vital part of that on an everyday basis. They're on it, they're on that list, whereas it gets closer to the high school, they're not as hands-on. And so we've really kind of come up with some real clear expectations. And so to get that nurse trained, really helping with those attendance protocols and getting kids to school is really important part. So this next one caught me off guard a little bit. Gina Brodsky, we had hired to work basically a quarter time. And what her plan was that she was going to provide supervision for our counselors, which is great because she's got great experience with that. She was going to really focus on communication and community outreach for us, and then the new student orientation at the high school, creating a student-led model. I think we do a good job with what we're doing now with a staff-led model, but I have this vision of having students trained to be able to help students acclimate to the high school experience. So I'm bummed that Gina just can't do it right now. She is wonderful. She is so apologetic. I think she appreciates the opportunity, but sometimes life comes at you and you have to make some decisions. And so she is going to still do the supervision of the counselors. She's still able to do that, the 6 to 8 times that we would ask her to do that. So that's a positive. What I'm going to do is I need to slow down for a couple of weeks and kind of let the dust settle a little bit, and then figure out what we're going to do with this position, because there's kind of two things that when we talked about this transitions coach that we put together under one position, we kind of put this transitions piece talking about 5th to 6th grade, 8th to 9th grade, and really trying to figure out what that looks like. And we've also talked about this wellness component where we have students who may be struggling with addiction or substance use, of what supports can we offer to help facilitate getting some outside help. And so those are two things. And as we kind of dig deeper into it, they're very different jobs. And so I think we need to just take some time to kind of reassess what we're going to do. We have the money to do something. I just need to really get some people together to talk about what the best thing to do is. We're going to engage Gina and Sally Manahan with the Choose to Be Healthy Coalition to kind of help us with that conversation. I want to involve the high school and middle school principals as well, and also some of the school counselors, just to kind of figure out what direction we're going to go in. So I'm sad. I do want to take a little bit of a pause, though. There's just a lot of balls in the air right now. I just want to let the dust settle with the start of the school year, and then we can kind of reassess what the next steps are with that position. So
Makes sense.
Any questions? Yeah, and so part of it may be the social worker. Like that's what we're trying to figure out. And so what makes the most sense. And I do this too much sometimes. I think, okay, if we do like a 0.5 position, it sounds great on paper and budgetarily it'll make it work. But then then the hard part is I got to find a person who wants to work half time. You know what I mean? And maybe 10 years ago, there might be 25 people that would apply for a half-time job, and like now we can't fill positions that we have. And so I think I have to do a little bit of reflection, saying, okay, John, it really works good in math, but in practicality, finding that person is tricky. Like finding Aaron Dixon was was a home run. I mean, that's someone qualified, has experience, wanted to be halftime because it worked for her. That was great, but that doesn't always work out that way. So we're going to just do a little bit of assessment. I'll report back to the board once we kind of get a plan in place and share that with you.
Thank you.
I just need to apologize. I just want to give you a securely update. I went back to the office the next day, and I was like shaking my brain, and I said something that was incorrect, and I just wanted to clarify for the board. Securely does do keyword searches around drug and alcohol use. And so I said a statement that was not correct, and Rebecca was like, John, are you sure about that? And I got back, I'm like, Rebecca, I am so sorry. I emailed her the next morning. Like, I don't know where my head was, but I remember having the conversation with the policy committee, but I just wanted to be clear about that with everybody. I just didn't want to mislead anybody by any means. And we still will have that conversation with the policy committee the next time we meet, so.
Excellent.
Okay?
Yep.
Principal Hooktorp came to me and had mentioned that we have a class at Marshwood High School, which is AP Government. Mr. Sanzone has with 27 students. So that obviously is one student over the district policy, which is 26 is really kind of the cap. As we typically do, we would put that on the agenda, which is required by policy, but also Principal Hooktorp talked to Mr. Sanzone. He is on board with this decision to have 27 student in the class. And so I just wanted to bring that forward to you tonight to make sure that met your approval. Any questions about that?
That has always been the question, is the teacher on board?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, and it's interesting, I mean, like, that's one of the things where you see the population at the high school going down to a certain extent, and then certain areas are still very, very popular in classes, and so that 27 is a really tough number, right? Because you can't necessarily have two sections, because that would be, you would now be below in two areas, and so that's the toughie. When it's 28, you're okay because you can have two 14s, and that's perfect. Obviously it's small, but sometimes those things happen, and so the other area, just to kind of keep on your radar as we get going forward, is art. There's a lot of kids who are asking to take art, and we had to have a number of students who weren't able to do that this year, and so we worked a lot of it out, but I think it's something we want to keep on the radar as we look at trends going forward. Is that fair? Pottery was the big one.
Number of wheels.
Yeah. So sometimes we're just limited by space. Even though we could have 26, we don't have 26 wheels, and so we're limited to say 16 or something, 18. So, any questions about that? Does that make sense to everybody? Transportation, I just wanted to kind of go over a couple of things. First of all, Heather's done a great job. It's been probably one of the most unique years with the openings, like speaking to Jerry, speaking to Nina, speaking to Peter, like we had students rolling in the day before school was going to start saying, we're here, where do we go? And then all of a sudden Heather's like, I got to look at the bus routes, where do I put everybody? Because all of a sudden those small things are 3 or 4 minutes for every bus route, and so that does have an impact. So there's a couple of things that I'm concerned about. We have a route that is not getting to school before 8:10 at the Great Works School, and that can't happen, and so we need to be able to make some adjustments with that. And then we also have a bus that's getting to the high school too early, getting there at about 20 minutes of 7 rather than the 7:50 is kind of that threshold that we created. And so we can't have students arriving to the buildings before we have staff ready to supervise those students. And so we have to be able to work kind of through those details. And then we also got to get kids to school on time so they're not missing school because they're on the bus. Like, that's just a big idea, right? And so we have to work those things out. So one of the things that I'm afraid that we may have to compromise is that we've kind of had this in place where we've said we're not going to pick up students before 6:20 in the morning. That's kind of been our target goal. And so we may need to push that back to 6:15 just to be able to accommodate and get those kids to the Great Works School on time. Because what happens is if the bus can't drop off at Marshwood Middle School until 7:10, and then it does its run, we may be getting kids at the school at 8:15, and we can't have that. So we're just going to try to find those minutes where we can and make those adjustments. But I did want to make you aware of that. It's not an ideal situation, but it is something we're going to have to manage right now as we kind of, try to consolidate those runs.
We good with bus drivers?
Let's define good, right? We could always use more, right? I think that's the big idea. So we're still a driver short. We have an opening right now. We have an opening for mechanics still. I think we're always looking for trip drivers. I do think it's great that we have 3 staff members right now who have other roles within the district, but who are driving trips. So Mr. Cormier, Mr. Patch, Mr. Gratian have been huge helpers to be able to kind of step up on the weekends to be able to. And then Stacy Davis, who's a custodian, who used to be a former bus driver. So sometimes it's all hands on deck to be able to manage those types of things. And so we're working really hard at that. One of the things that we're looking into right now that may help us in the future is our drop-off management system, I guess is the best way to say that, is a little bit antiquated. And so there's a new system that we're going to look into that may help things in the future a little bit to free up the drivers and also free up the kind of the administrative task of scheduling what the bus routes look like. And so I think a lot of those things, even though we have a program that's done by hand, so that's a lot of work, labor hours that has to go into those things. So we're going to look at that as well, kind of going forward. Any questions? Perfect. I just want to make one other side comment is this. I do really want to give a huge shout out to the custodians. We are 3 people short right now. We've been able to hire a couple of those positions right now to kind of close that gap. But you had people this summer working a lot of hours. You have staff right now who are working a lot of overtime to be able to kind of get those buildings up and ready and then stay ready. You know, Todd has been fantastic, but he's had to really, swing the hammer, so to speak, as opposed to managing people. I mean, like he himself was doing that bathroom. So when Nina said Todd did the bathroom, it's not an exaggeration. Todd did the bathroom, right? And so that saves money, but there's a time consequence for that as well. Building the deck, there's a time consequence for that as well. So they really have pulled together. One of the things as a district that we need to look at is that the Marshall Great Works School in particular was overwhelmed this summer with the number of students that were in it. And so basically beginning the week after 4th of July, all the way through to 2 weeks before school started, there were students in that building everywhere. And so you have ESY, you have Summer Boost, you have just a lot of kids, the kitchen's open. And so I think we need to really look at how do we spread that out, because poor Ed Hubbard trying to manage getting that building up and ready is really hard. And every school has those same type of characteristics. So we've got to think about, is there a way to close down the buildings section-wise to be able to give the custodians some relief, because they're getting parts of the building done, and then all of a sudden people are going into a classroom, and so now they have to redo the classroom. So we just got to be mindful of what we're asking those people to do and support them as best we can. So we'll be looking at that as we go into next summer. All right, and time for a student report. Nice to see you.
It's good to see everyone. I apologize for being a little late. I just came from a soccer game. So I guess I'll start off with sports. The Heat hasn't been ideal for the first week, but girls varsity just played Portland tonight, and we won 6-1. Last Thursday we played Gorham. We lost in double overtime 3-2. So we'll see them in a couple more weeks. Hopefully we'll take the win on that. Boys varsity lost to Portland at home yesterday 3-0. JV tied it off 2-2. Girls field hockey lost 10-0 against Gorham last Thursday. Football lasted Deering 17-7 last Friday at the home opener, and volleyball plays York tonight as well. Student Gov is taking off. They had their first executive board meeting this morning with Ms. Decker. Mr. Hooktorp has assigned the Student Gov to take on 4 days to plan this year, which includes homecoming, the Friday before December, the holiday break there, the Friday before February break for Winter Carnival, and the Wellness Day in May. So lots of work to be done there, and looking forward to that. We'll keep you updated. For extracurriculars, I don't have very much since things are just settling in this week, but hopefully there'll be more for the next meeting. And so far, it's been a great couple of days here at school, hoping to get into the school rhythm and spirit this month with homecoming week being planned to be held through the 25th to the 29th of December. So it's looking to be a great year.
Awesome.
So Principal Hookturk and myself are going to schedule a meeting with James and Rowan to kind of just make sure we have everything squared away, talk about the rules and responsibilities, part of me of being a school board ambassador. So so James will join us next week.
Okay, excellent.
Did you going to say something?
No.
Okay.
Good. Sorry.
And that concludes my report.
Great, thank you. We have had no correspondence upon which to report, so we'll move into the report of the committees. Finance and Facilities will next meet in 2 weeks on September 20th. Ed Policy will next meet on September 27th. I don't think there's any updates from that committee right now, right, either? Okay, and then third and most importantly tonight, Wellness SEL met just before this meeting. Lisa, would you?
Sure. Yeah.
Rebecca, whichever.
Sorry. Do you want me to start?
Yes.
Fill in the blanks. Okay.
Sure.
We missed you, Jen, at the meeting. You're on a different committee anymore. Jen usually does such a good job with us. But so yeah, we met for the first time for the year, and we were just kind of got updated on what we've done and where we want to go. We called it goals, but just a lot of the things that we've already covered. We talked about the Erin Hickson coming on as the part-time wellness coordinator. the work that she's going to be doing. We talked about the new Marshwood High School Career Center, which I guess is this room, which is very exciting, and how it's going to be used in terms of real career support for our students, which goes beyond college and kind of the more traditional, but having a space to have interviews, like Bath Iron Works coming in, meetings, different career pathways, interviews on the spot, that type of thing. So that's really, really exciting, I think, for our students to have that opportunity. We talked about Dan McComb coming on as the Marshwood health teacher. We also did touch upon the fact that there are vape detectors in our schools now, and they've been going off like crazy in the bathrooms, which is really interesting to know. But as the students are realizing that that is not going to be happening, that number has dropped a little bit. And just to be clear, there was a question like, where are the cameras taking pictures? They're outside of the bathrooms. They are not in the bathroom. So just being really clear on that. We talked about Chartwells, and Laura, I guess, recently attended the coaches meetings for the athletes, I think, and did some discussion of nutrition. They're going to be continuing the Discovery Kitchen and the Student Choice and the Mood Boost programs that they have been doing successfully for the last couple years. We also talked about how we want to try again to schedule a November parent community event focused on wellness. So last year we did like a fair, and we had a talk with Stephen Quinlan about anxiety, and we had a little discussion after, and that was such a huge hit. So I think we're going to be doing that again. So we're focusing on a topic. We might do a screening and a discussion, and again the wellness focused fair, and then maybe something perhaps a little bit later in the year, because we ended up talking a lot about service basically, and how it's weird to put that with wellness, but if you think about it, serving others is incredibly therapeutic in connecting us with other people and giving us a purpose larger than ourselves and all the good things. So we want to, we're going to be talking more about how to integrate more opportunities and maybe make some structure for that, particularly in terms of like the high school and how there's the 50-hour requirement, but then what is that really meaning to students when they're just like checking boxes? Like, how can we make this a little bit more structured and provide more meaning for the students in terms of being of service out there? So we were thinking, actually, Mr. Caverly brought it up, perhaps there's some kind of service-focused fair in the, and I'm looking at you because I'm wondering if perhaps student government would probably be a big part of that, but like more of a service opportunities fair. Yes. Where like in really connecting with our community, nonprofits and everybody else, senior center, whatever that might need volunteers, and actually really bring that forth and provide that connection for our students. We'll see where that goes.
Or a race director that might be interested in that.
Yes, so I was thinking of her immediately. What did I miss?
I think you hit everything. You really did. Excellent. Thank you.
Can I just ask one question? You mentioned the nutrition person. I feel like we discussed it at the end of last year, maybe. Is that someone with Chartwells?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so someone's with Chartwells, and they're going to actually come in and work with staff. And so, like, I foresee someone coming in and work with our family consumer science teacher at the middle school and doing, nutrition lessons and how to cook and be able to incorporate that into the curriculum. So,
okay.
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. Is that someone who could come and like talk to health classes or to students? Okay.
100%. It would be great if it was also like an interactive, where it's like how, not just like this is what you should eat, but like how do you prepare it?
Yes.
I think that hands-on experience for kids is really important. I think in this day and age, as opposed to. Yep.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the report of the committees and brings us to new business. May I have a motion, please, to approve the nomination of Anthony Bourbon?
Go ahead. I move to approve the nomination of Anthony Bourbon, interim assistant principal, Marshwood High School, interim school year 2023 to 2024.
$89,994.82, prorated to start date of 9/7/23.
I'll second, Lisa.
Lisa, thank you.
Can I just add a point of clarity? So
Yes.
when I say prorated, the administrator's contract runs July 1st through June 30th, and so obviously we're almost 2.5 months into the school year, and so that's why it's prorated, just so
Yep. Makes sense. 9/7 being tomorrow.
we're nice and new tomorrow.
Yep. Okay, questions, comments? All in favor? 5-0. Thank you. May I have a motion, please, with regard to the nomination of Michelle Moynihan?
Move to approve the nomination of Michelle Moynihan, a second-year probationary teacher, reading intervention, Elliott Elementary School, school year 2023-2024, FTE .4, bachelor's, step 17, $74,808. And then this creates a full-time position.
Second, Rebecca?
Rebecca, thank you.
So remember a second ago when I said John has these things, these .4 positions? Well, this is what this is. And so Michelle was serving as a .4 educational technician and a .6 teacher for us. And we've had this .4 reading position where we had a fantastic person who resigned. And so we've had this open position that we can't do a whole lot with. And so what we're going to do instead is combine the 2.4 educational technician positions to create a full-time teaching position. And what that does is it frees up some more flexibility, work with larger groups, be able to take some of the work off of Joanne Hearth-Cram, excuse me. And so it allows us to have some more flexibility within the reading department. So there is no budgetary impact. It's the same money, but it just, we're spending it a little bit differently to create some flexibility because we couldn't fill that position.
So this person is a 0.4%, but no other responsibility? Wait,
Right now, they're currently a .4 ed tech, and then they're a .6 teacher. And basically, quick math is that 2 ed techs, roughly, Ryan's gonna get nervous because like 2.6 or whatever, but roughly two ed techs equate to 1 teacher's salary. And so we're gonna take the 2.4 positions, we have 2 in the budget right now, we're gonna take both of those out, create a .4 teaching position, so financially it's the same money, and then be able to have a full-time teaching position, which creates greater flexibility with our ability to service kids.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks for clarifying that, because when you read it, it's like teacher, I thought it was like a reading intervention teacher, but like, it's not, it's a combo, and.
Yeah, there's kind of 2 parts to that position right now.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? All in
I
favor?
do, I do wonder, because I had the same question, like, should that be reworded, just for posterity?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I would say so.
because otherwise, if someone could just read that and think, what the heck, we're paying. You're right, Heather.
You're not comfortable that this creates a full-time position, clarification accounts for the salary?
Yeah, if that's, yeah. I mean, it's just confusing to then, to have the FTE .4.
Right, so it should say, second-year probationary teacher or part-time probationary teacher, part-time reading interventionist, paraprofessional or ed tech position? I don't know. Like
What happens if we took the
Just take out
74,808 and times it by .4, and that's $29,923.20, and we change the amount to that? And then we already have the other .6 in the budget that's already been approved by all of you, so so
that makes more sense.
those 2 things, is that good enough math? Okay, that's John math, we're usually get in trouble, so.
This is just for someone that didn't hear your explanation or just reading these notes, it's probably better to be a little more clear.
So then I think what we want to do is we want to either change the motion or vote it down and then make a new motion.
I'm comfortable with just having a motion to amend the motion to what we just read. If somebody wants to make that motion.
29,923.20. 923.20.
Okay, so I move to amend, to approve the nomination of Michelle Moynihan, second-year probationary teacher, reading interventionist, Elliott Elementary School, school year 2023-2024, FTE .4, bachelor's step 17, $29,923.20. This creates a full-time position.
Second, Lisa.
Lisa, okay, so now I think what we have to do is we have to vote on the motion to amend. All in favor? That's 5-0, good. And now we have to vote on the actual motion itself. All in favor? That is also 5-0.
Well
Getting
done.
Sorry for the confusion.
parliamentary
No,
headache.
that's good.
That's good.
No, it's good. That's good.
That's all right.
I mean,
Very
just in
good.
case anybody ever goes back to this, just
Yeah.
to have it be
Yep.
super clear.
Yep. That's great.
Okay, and ma'am, have a motion, please, to approve the nomination of Jillian Highland.
Move we approve the nomination of Jillian Highland, first-year probationary teacher, physics, Marshwood High School, school year 2023-2024. Master's, step 4, $54,189, which is prorated to the start date.
Well, second, Rebecca.
Rebecca, thank you.
Give me 1 second. So there are certain positions that when you get somebody, like you want to call a board meeting that minute because you're afraid they're going to go away. And physics at the high school level is one of those positions. We are thrilled that Jillian has applied for the job. She attended the University of Connecticut in Stores, has a Master's of Arts in Educational and Curriculum Instruction at UConn as well. Previous experience, she worked as a physics teacher at Farmington High School in Connecticut, and she was also a physics teacher in the Summer Learning Academy of Farmington, Connecticut. So moved to the area. We are excited to have Jillian on board, and hopefully we can have her starting sooner rather than later.
So start date is still indeterminate at this point.
Our hope is to have the start, if you approve everything, our hope to have the start date is Friday.
Okay,
Oh, wonderful.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
So great. Yay.
Questions? All in favor? 5-0. Let's get her in here.
Yep.
Give me that call.
Okay, and we have a motion with regard to an overnight trip. Let's see these, this is awesome. May
I
have a
move
motion, please?
I move to approve Marshwood High School's Hold Club to take an overnight trip to Acadia National Park in October.
Yeah, second.
Sounds awesome, of course.
Yeah, it's great.
Do you have any details?
I'd like to go.
Are they gonna hike?
Yeah.
or are they gonna do,
I don't want to do that. I don't want to do the beehive though. That makes me scared. Yeah, Brett, do you want to share any of the details?
Yeah, they're gonna go overnight, hike, camp out.
Nice.
Hopefully they get this awesome October weather. and
Yeah, right.
That'll be so fun.
Acadia is just amazing.
Yes, it is. Okay, questions or comments? All in favor? Yay, more of that, 5-0, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, this concludes the new business, and we have a building administrator check-in. Do we want to do that now? I think we've already heard from all of our administrators, and thank you for that. Oh, well, Jerry?
Here we go.
Go ahead.
See, you know.
One, I didn't recognize the administrative assistants at the Great Works School, and I'm telling you, talk about the custodians doing work. Those folks are there, all summer, and it's crazy. And then you just can't imagine how crazy it is the week before school, because all of a sudden the teachers are coming in, and again, all of a sudden there's 3 new kids, and so they just do an unbelievable job. And then when I saw hold, just, hold your breath, but pick a notch right now is on.
Oh,
They
gosh.
work with them all summer,
Yeah.
and were they gonna have it, were they not gonna have it? And then, so I got an email or a text probably 3 weeks ago that they are gonna begin their program, and I already set up the dates for them.
Nice.
So we're on now.
Yeah.
Anything can happen, but I
Yeah.
just know that was.
It's exciting.
That is awesome.
Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
glad.
Good news.
Thank you, that's awesome. Anybody else forget anything? Okay, any last thoughts from the board? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn tonight's meeting.
I second.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
All in favor? We are adjourned.
Thanks.
Thank you all for coming.
I will send you the